Tuesday morning, my husband kissed my forehead and said he'd be back by dinner. 3 years later, I found him thin and white-haired in a nursing home, holding another woman's hand beneath paper wedding bells. I was 72, 48 years married, certain we'd grow old in the house we built until life's cruel sense of humor stepped into the room. Robert started forgetting things 2 years before he left. Small things first, where he left his keys, trash day, even our grandson's name. I thought it was just age, then it got worse. In an hour, he'd asked the same question 5 times. He got lost driving to our grocery store. One morning, I found him in our backyard at 3 a.m., confused about where he was. The diagnosis hit like a freight train. Early stage Alzheimer's, degenerative, progressive, incurable. I promised Robert I'd take care of him. I became his caregiver, his memory, his anchor. But Alzheimer's felt like watching someone drown in slow motion, with only your tired hand holding theirs. The man who fixed anything couldn't tie his shoes. The man who told the funniest jokes couldn't recognize his own children. Our daughter Michelle suggested professional care. "Mom, you're exhausted. You haven't slept in months. This is killing you too." I refused. I'd made a vow, in sickness and in health. Then came that Tuesday. Robert woke up sharply dressed. He looked at me with a steady gaze I hadn't seen in months. "I'm going for a walk, need to clear my head." He sounded almost like the old Robert, and relief outran caution. I just kissed him and watched him leave. Hours passed. Dinner came and went. I called everyone. Nobody had seen him. By midnight, I was filing a missing person report. The officer said, "We'll start the silver alert and canvass the routes most don't get far." Robert got far, very far. Police searched for weeks. His face was on the news. We posted flyers everywhere. Days collapsed into a gray season where hope rang like a phone and always cut to silence. After 3 months, they suggested I prepare for the worst. They thought Robert was dead. I was numb. How do you mourn someone without a body, without answers? Life went on without me. Michelle handled bills. My sons sold Robert's truck. Friends stopped calling. I haunted our house, a ghost waiting for a man who wasn't coming home. 2 months ago, I received a call from Patricia, a social worker at Riverside Nursing Home, 200 miles away in Pennsylvania. "Mrs. Harrison, we have a patient named Robert Harrison. He was brought in 3 years ago with no ID. Last week, he mentioned your name during a lucid moment. Robert was alive. After 3 years, my husband was alive." I could barely speak through my tears. "Can I see him? I'm coming now." Patricia's voice got quiet. "There's something you should know. Robert's condition has progressed significantly, and there's another complication. I drove those 200 miles from Ohio in a daze. What complication could be worse than my husband disappearing for 3 years?" Patricia met me in the lobby with kind eyes that still put me on edge. "Before you see Robert, we need to talk." She led me to her office. He came in with no identification. We registered him as John Doe with no family located. The state assumed guardianship. 6 months ago, Diane Foster petitioned the court marriage certificate from Nevada, corroborating records, an affidavit. Once the petition was accepted, the court granted her medical authority. She's been visiting regularly and planned a small vow renewal for Friday. With guardian consent, the facility posted it on Facebook. The office tilted. "What? I'm Robert's wife. We've been married 48 years. I believe you. But legally, Diane established herself as his court-appointed guardian. The ceremony was meant to be something nice for residents. We had no way of knowing there was another family. I stood so fast, my chair fell. Where is he? Through a window, I saw him. Robert, so much older, thinner, white hair, but it was him, sitting next to a woman I'd never seen, holding her hand, smiling at a photo album. The ease between them gutted me. When I entered, Robert looked at me with empty eyes. No recognition. Robert, it's me, Sarah, your wife. He smiled politely. Hello, that's a pretty name. The woman stood immediately. She was my age, with styled hair and expensive jewelry. Can I help you? I'm Sarah Harrison, Robert's wife. Her face hardened. I'm Diane Foster, Robert's wife. I have legal documents. We faced each other across Robert's confusion. In Patricia's office, Diane spread a certificate on the desk. Las Vegas, 1989. Robert and I were married in Las Vegas. We were together 3 years before he disappeared in 1992. No divorce. He just vanished. I kept a suitcase by the door for years in case he came back with the right story. I've been looking for him ever since. Robert and I married in 1977. 12 years into our marriage, he married someone else. He lived a double life, from 1989 to 1992, 3 years of 2 wives, 2 homes, 2 lives. My mouth formed the truth before I could bear it. He was married to both of us. Diane's face went pale. She clearly hadn't known about me either. The truth came out in pieces. Robert was a traveling salesman, always on the road. Me in Ohio, Diane in Nevada. It was easy to maintain 2 separate lives until Alzheimer's made the lies too complicated, and he walked away from both. Only later, when the adrenaline thinned, did I see the post. The nursing home had celebrated it on Facebook. Celebrating love at any age. With pictures of Robert and Diane looking at wedding rings. My children saw it. My friends saw it. They didn't know it was Robert because he looked different and was listed under his patient ID initially. The administrator called it an unfortunate procedural confusion. Diane and I sat there, 2 wives, both betrayed, both grieving. She set a paper cup of water near me without a word. For a second, we were not rivals, only women holding the same absence. But Robert remembered neither of us. He couldn't explain, couldn't even apologize. Diane's hands shook as she gathered her papers. I came here thinking I'd finally found closure, she said quietly. That I could honor what we had. But the man I loved disappeared a long time ago, not just 3 years ago. The real Robert left both of us decades back. She looked at me with exhausted eyes. I can't marry a ghost. She cancelled the ceremony. Despite her legal standing, she couldn't go through with it knowing the truth. I visit Robert twice a week now. Sometimes he thinks I'm his mother. Sometimes a nurse. Once he called me Diane. Diane still visits too. We coordinate so we don't overlap. It's too painful to see each other's grief reflected back. The house I built with Robert is just a house now. How much of our life was real? How much was he thinking of her when he kissed me goodnight? Did he love us both? Did he love either of us? I told our children their father lived a double life. Michelle kept calling it grief with a tangled root. The boys called it a verdict. Michelle cried for days. My sons refused to visit. He's not Dad anymore, my eldest said, his voice flat with something worse than anger, disappointment mixed with shame. The man who taught us about honesty was living a lie. I can't reconcile that. I can't even look at him. The cruelest part of Alzheimer's is it steals the person before the body. But Robert's disease revealed a person I never knew, a man who loved two women simultaneously, who built two lives with the same careful hands that built our house, who walked away when it got too complicated to remember which life was which. Last week, I brought old photo albums. Robert studied our wedding photo the way you study a postcard from a town you've never visited. He touched the corner, careful not to smudge strangers, and the room seemed to hush around his fingertip. They look happy, he said. I hope they had a good life together. They, not we. I nodded, as if blessing a life I had already lived. I drove home and let the grief come, not only for the man illness took, but for the marriage I believed in, the house we built, the careful hands that built it twice. Diane called yesterday. She found old love letters, 2 sets of I love you, the same hand, the same roads. He'd written them to her during the same years he wrote me anniversary cards. She asked if I wanted to see them. I said no. Some truths are too painful to witness. The nursing home still posts pictures on Facebook, celebrating our seniors. I see Robert smiling in group photos, participating in bingo, living without memory, without guilt, without the weight of what he did to 2 women who loved him. Is it worse to lose someone to death, or like this, to discover the person you mourned never really existed? When memory fades, where do the sins go? I don't have answers. I just have a choice I make twice a week. Drive 200 miles to visit a man who doesn't know me, because somewhere in that confused mind is the person I promised to love in sickness and in health. Even if he betrayed me, even if he lived a lie, even if he forgot me long before the disease stole his memory, the vows remain in me. The husband who made them is already elsewhere. Somewhere memory keeps no record. Maybe that's the cruelest mercy of Alzheimer's. He doesn't have to live with what he did, but I do. Diane does. Our children do. When memory erases guilt, does forgiveness still count? If vows live in only one person, are they still vows? Tell me how you'd carry them, because I need to know I'm not the only one making this impossible choice.